Okay guys, so we're gonna cook some steak this evening, and in order to make our steak we're gonna need some olive oil. It's very simple: olive oil, salt and black pepper. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drizzle our steak with some olive oil. All right, I'm just going to spread that around. Good. We're going to sprinkle now some salt on it. I'm using sea salt. I'm going to sprinkle some black pepper. All right, I'm going to just use my fork and press in the seasonings. You want that seasoning to get into the meat. Okay, we're going to flip over. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. A little olive oil. Oops, that's a little too much came out there. All right, just spread the olive oil around. I'm going to season the other side with salt as well. Put some black pepper. All right, and now we're just going to press it in. Some people prefer using their hands for this, but I'm just going to use a fork. Press it in. Now, a point to remember is that, of course, you would have had your steaks in the fridge, but an hour before you're ready to cook your steak, you should take it out of the fridge so that it is brought to room temperature. You always want to cook your steak at room temperature. So now we can head over to the pan so that we can start cooking our steak. And of course, you cook the steak to your preference. Some people want it medium rare, some people want it well done. You cook it to your preference. But one tip in cooking is that you would every minute flip the steak so that it cooks evenly on both sides. And of course, you cook it to whatever preference you prefer. But one thing I would mention is that the tongs that you would use in order to flip it, what I would do is that when I initially put it in the pan to sear for that first minute, and then I would flip it over to sear on the next side. At that point, I will go and wash my tongs, because remember, you would have used raw meat. Initially, the meat is raw. And so at that point, after I flip it on the other side, I will go rinse out my tongs so that when I flip it again, I don't have raw meat juices on my tongs. So that's just a little tip that I just thought I would share. All right, well, let's head over to the stove now. Okay, so I'm heating up my pan here, and this is a non-stick pan. And because I have sufficient oil on my steak, I would not need to add any more olive oil to my pan. Keeping in mind this is a non-stick pan, so of course that will help in my situation. But I think I have sufficient oil on the steak itself, because a little extra oil did come out when I was trying to get it prepared. So I'm just simply going to lay the steak in the pan. According to what pan you're using, of course you want to use a heavy bottom pan when you're doing this, but if you wish, you can drizzle some olive oil when you were doing your steak, as the case may be. All right. I'm not going to mess around with it. I'm just going to leave it for 1 minute and then I will turn it over. Alright, so my 1 minute is up, so I'm just going to flip it. Good. Now at this point, I'm just going to head over to the sink and I'm going to rinse out my tongs so that when I flip it again, I'm not reintroducing any raw fluids to my meat. So what you're going to do is every minute you're going to flip your steak and cook it to whatever you prefer, but you're continuing to flip on the minute mark. And the reason why you're doing that is because you want to cook it evenly from both sides. And at this point I'm just going to lift it here and just sear the sides. Alright, we'd want to leave our steak to rest on our plate for about 5 minutes before we cut into it. So that's it, guys. How to cook a delicious steak. Remember, keep it at room temperature an hour before you're ready to cook it. And every minute you flip it until you cook it to your desired doneness, for want of a better word. And I hope you enjoyed looking at this video. So bye for now and see you in my next video.